So now that we have talked about notes, let's talk about intervals. So what is an interval? An interval is the distance between two notes. So for instance, if I have the note C, then C to D is going to be a second. C to E is going to be a third. C to F is a fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, until we finally get to our octave. So you can keep going to a ninth and so on, but for the purposes of this, we're just going to stop at an octave. So now that we talked about the different types of intervals, each interval has a different type within itself. Meaning, if we have a second, we actually have two types of seconds. So we have a minor second here and a major second, right? So with thirds, we have the same thing. We have a minor third and we have a major third. So now when we get to fourths and fifths, this is where things start to change a little bit. So fourths and fifths, instead of using major and minor, these are going to be described as perfect. So C to F is a perfect fourth, and C to G is a perfect fifth. So why are they perfect? So they are called that because if you were to take this interval and inverse it, you're just going from a fifth to a fourth to a fifth, right? So whereas if we were to do the other intervals, we would either go from a minor interval, so a minor third would switch to a major sixth. And so because this doesn't switch from minor to major, we describe this as perfect. Okay, so we have a perfect fourth and a perfect fifth, and then this interval, we have something that's called the tritone. So this interval is usually very dissonant. And one thing to note about this is that this interval is halfway in between our octave. So in between C and C, F sharp is exactly halfway. And it is called a tritone because it's made up of three whole steps. So we talked about half steps before. So a whole step is basically just two half steps. So from C to D is a whole step. From D to E is another whole step. And then from E to F sharp is our third whole step, making our tritone. Okay, so let's continue. So after our fifth, then we get to sixth, which we'll use major and minor again. So this is a minor sixth. This is a major sixth. And then we'll do the same thing for sevenths. So we'll have a minor seventh and a major seventh. And then finally, we get to our octave. So as we described earlier, an octave is just the same note, but with a higher pitch. Knowing all of these intervals is important, and you want to go through each and every one of them, so that way when you hear a melody, you can make a better approximation of how far away the note is versus just blindly guessing. For the purposes of this course, however, we're only going to be focusing on seconds and thirds, mainly because seconds and thirds make up scales and chords respectively, as we'll talk about in later videos. So now let's practice some listening examples and we'll go from there.